Good. Let's start with some questions. Questions like, come on, give me a question that may have happened during this semester, like not about government, but about the class. Like what goes through your mind right now? How am I going to get an A when we don't know what right assignments we're going with, right? Mm-hmm. Is that a question you might ask? You would ask that? Yeah. So ask it. Go ahead. Somebody. Nobody? No question?
I'm not going to get an A when we don't know what to do in the class.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Well, first of all, you're doing it right now. You're going to class. We're going to start up the quizzes here pretty soon. I'm going to try to load them online. That way we can get you doing that, okay? Last week I talked to the Thursday class about getting the book, right? You saw that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get the book?
Oh, you talking about the U.S. Constitution?
No, but you do need that book. The big book. The big, unfortunate, expensive book, and I apologize for the expense.
Which one?
All right, so I don't know if that was on the video, but
It was.
Good. Did you look?
No.
For the book, that is.
For the book?
Yeah.
No, I don't know, I don't know how to search it up on the...
Go to the bookstore. Are you allowed to go to the bookstore?
Go to the bookstore?
Yeah, walk there and go, hey, do you have this book?
Yeah, they don't let you, look at the books, but I can ask.
Can you ask them? Yeah, you can ask, say, I need the book for the government. They say, well, Holzer doesn't have that down. Say, well, the other guys do. I just want to buy the book. I think I had it down, all right? So, get it. You got it?
Yes.
You got that? Okay. Because we're going to be, I'm going to open it up today and we're going to be discussing the contents of it today. And so, I want you guys to have it as a reference. So that's a good thing, okay? Because that's where a lot, if not most, of the test questions are coming from. If that makes sense. Did you catch that? So for people who are not watching the video, if they were watching this video, where are most of the test questions going to come from? The book, right. And I'm going to lecture on, of course, there are going to be a lot of test questions that are extra, I was going to say extra biblical. The word biblical, by the way, Bible just means book. Biblios in Greek. Hagios Biblios is a holy book, right? That's what makes that distinct. But anyway, our book, it will be, there will be questions outside the book, but quite frankly, I like to follow this. I also like to follow a set of outlines that we have that Chris Hammonds and the whole department uses. So I'll be, if you go to his class, you would go, oh yeah, he teaches this exact same stuff too. Or if you went to, any of the other professors who teach government, we're all on the same page. So you're not going to get anything weird other than I think Chris is allegedly funnier than I am, which I'm not very happy with, but it's okay. I'll work on it. Okay. Get the comedy act down a little better, a little harder with this mask on. You don't see my snarky, facial expressions. So it's Living Democracy is the name of the textbook. I've got the instructor's edition, so I don't know what that means. Let me know if you can't get a copy, okay? So, okay. Very important. This book, like I was telling everybody else in the last class, pretty darn biased. But who isn't biased, right? All of you have your own opinions, correct? And your opinions are even more opinionated come, election time. We're a couple months away from the election, right? And you guys are listening to your side of the story, whomever be. Where do you get your news? I got this great article I want you guys to read. Talks about how uninformed most people are in politics because of where they get their information. That we're more likely to get information places like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the social, pages. But what we don't do is read books. We don't read, take courses on politics, and we never really ask the hard questions. Are the guys who are presenting this to me, are they being fairly accurate or not? You got to understand. we talked about this last week. I was just listening to you hear the two sides of the story. Kamala Harris just went to visit Blake's parents, right? Does anybody know anything about Blake's parents? No? Dad's a Louis Farrakhan follower. Who knows who Louis Farrakhan is? He's a black Muslim. They're an anti-Semitic group. What does it mean to be anti-Semitic? They don't like Jews. Okay? Farrakhan doesn't like Jews. And his dad's a virulent anti-Semite, right? To be anti-Semite means you don't like Jews. Not a good thing. You're in the same camp as Hitler, right? Because he didn't like Jews, right? Okay. So she goes and visits them, says they're great people. Okay, that's fine. If you want to go that route. And then commends on the, well wishes the son. Well, what was the son doing when he got arrested? Does anybody know? When he got shot. He got shot, right? We all know this guy got shot in the back. What was he doing? Why were the police officers after him? You don't know, do you? You know a guy was shot in the back. You know a lot of people are protesting this, right? Would it be good to know why he was shot in the back? He had just raped a woman. Well, no. That's too harsh words. He sexually assaulted her. Okay? Meaning he didn't fully rape her, but he sexually assaulted her, stole her car, and then was about to do it again, and then allegedly was he had just fought with the police, got one in a headlock. They couldn't get him down. Okay, they had tased him twice and all that stuff. Anyway, wait, you don't see that on video, do you? Why not? Why didn't you see all that on video? Because the people we're listening to didn't show it. Is that odd? Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, you never want to, personally, if I was a police officer, I'd be like, okay, if I shoot this guy in the back, my career's on the line. My freedom's on the line. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, whatever, man. I don't know if whatever. I don't know what they taught the guy, but he did it. Now it's national news. Stores are being burned down. People are getting hurt. But the news that we listen to will tell you which way to view that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And it is an election year. So books will tell you how to view things. Professors will tell you how to view things. Okay? And they're all going to be biased. That includes me. Remember, I can say that every single class, and some of you all get all pissed off. Maybe not you four. But some others will. They'll be like, oh my God, that guy's so biased. Well, I already said I was biased. That's the key. Understand. If you know one person's biased, I always say this every semester, beware of the sound of one hand clapping. Because if there's an argument on one side, there's an argument on the other. And if I keep you from listening to this side of the argument, you only hear my side. Make sense? You always want to hear both sides, because I'll tell you what, the truth is somewhere in between. Sometimes one person's a complete liar, the other person's a bit biased, okay? Most times they're both biased, okay? So keep that in mind. So where do you want to get your news from? Well, all sides. Just suck it all up. Take it all in. Hear both sides. Hear all the sides, and then go, oh yeah, that's a pretty complex situation. It's never easy, ever. The most simple things are never easy. The things that seem obvious, dig a little deeper, okay? So when we look at this, when we look at our government, and we go to chapter 1 of this book, we want to make a distinction between government and politics. And a lot of what I was just talking about is politics. What is politics? Well, politics has to do with how we present ourselves, how parties win elections, right? How they present the other side. I was listening to how Joe Biden was discussing Donald Trump today. According to Joe Biden, he's a failed leader. The 184,000 deaths thus far did not have to happen. Had somebody else been president, there either would have been no deaths or far less deaths, right? They're Donald Trump's fault. He did something, there's something he did or did not do, and if he had done it or did not do it, things would be different. That's politics. You didn't know that. He can't, and no, this isn't to say Joe Biden is, I'm taking a side on that one. I'm just saying, if Trump leveled that claim, that specific claim, you can't prove that claim. If he would, what would you? When we don't know we don't have any medicine, right? I mean, we have certain medicines, but treatments and stuff. But it's not like, oh, we have the cure here, and Trump said don't use it. Okay, okay. Trump, on the other hand, is going around Sleepy Joe. Well, okay, maybe he's a bit tired. Okay, I probably would be too. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'm a bit erratic. Maybe he'd give me another nickname. Erratic Shannon or Crazy Shannon. Or he gave Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, Lying Ted. That's what he called him. Well, those are just names, right? Those are insults. What does that do?
The distraction.
Well, it's a great distraction. It rallies the base, And when I was really insulted when he did it 4 years ago. Now I guess I've gotten used to it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But that is not government. That is politics. Nancy Pelosi, right? Tearing up a speech that Donald Trump says on national TV, right after he says it, right? He addressed both houses of Congress. I think it might have been the State of the Union. I think it was State of the Union. She rips up the speech. It says, it's not politics. It's all done for show. But then there's government. Government is the running of the country, the actual doing of the business. And that is the boring part, guys. The fun part is when they get up and they debate and do the politics, and you see the soap opera. They hold elections and they politic and they, and so, but governing is boring. It's most of the job is tedious. It's pedantic. It's, you create bills, you stand on committees, you read things, and you go, well, okay, and you try to make adjustments to, you might support a bill, right? And you might, write a bill, and then it has to go to committee, and we'll talk about all this, right? And you're on a committee, and then you gotta, do the work of, if you're sponsored. Some of these bills are boring, a bill becomes law. And some of these bills are like having to do with farming and stuff, and maybe it's not your big deal, it's not all this crazy stuff. It's not wars and, technology and spying and all this stuff. And even those ones are probably pretty boring tasks. And so the day-to-day can be quite boring, and then you get in front of the news camera and you got to talk about how the Dems or the Republicans are trying to steal the elections by putting mailboxes on the backs of trucks. So Steve, did you hear that one? Okay, there's no different. This is a common thing apparently. The post office picks up unused mailboxes. Somebody got a picture of it and said, "Look what they're doing." Conspiracy theory, and next thing you know, they're like, "Let's use this," and that's politics, right? The best way to keep that from happening, keep your vote from being screwed with if you are mailing it in, don't mail it in. Go in person and vote, okay? That's what I'm going to do. There's a number of votes, a percentage of those votes that just get rejected because signatures don't match, something wasn't filled out properly, and it's all in the name of the prevention of fraud. Some of these are like 25%, 1 in 4. Now some of those are fraud, okay? But point being, if you want your vote to count, the best way to do it is do it in person, right? So, anyway, that's politics again, okay? Doing the government stuff, though, all right? I think I actually went through most of chapter 1 discussing the different types of government. We actually, believe it or not, in this book, we've, even though you haven't read it, and you're gonna need to, we're gonna talk about reading, talk about different colony stuff. We'll have you read about that. But with the, I wanna make sure you understand the difference between government and politics. And that's the important part. So tell me something here. Have any of you guys ever partaken in any political action at all? Have you, or governmental for that matter? Have you ever volunteered for a political campaign? Any of you? No. Boy, it'd be a great time to do it. But, man, you'd be all excited because it's crazy, okay? Right now, I don't know if I might discourage that right now. You guys might come in here and start fighting each other. You'll learn a lot about campaigning, okay? And campaigning is about selling. You're selling a person, usually, okay? A product, and that product is the person who is running or the group, okay? Any of you ever name some governmental agencies? Have you ever thought about working for government? That's pretty easy to do. I mean, the government's huge. Anybody ever thought about working for the post office? It's a government job. Okay? That agency is in the Constitution. Did you know we cannot get rid of the post office without amending the Constitution? Do you know what that would take? Well, you gotta get Congress to amend the Constitution, right? And in order to do that, they've got to agree on it. They can't agree on anything. All right. DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. Anybody think about that's government? Anybody ever got a driver's license here? You have a driver's license? You have a driver's license? You have a driver's license? Not yet? It's because DMV is so horrible right at their job, right? Now, would you like to work at that job?
No.
No. Why not? Because
Boring.
no, it's a boring job. It's just like sitting there
It's long.
having to deal with crazy people all day and a lot next, number. I mean, like, yeah.
You got letter 3 numbers into it.
Well, that's government. Those are government jobs. And those government jobs are headed up by that's a state job. That's a state government. Each state, distributes driver's licenses. The post office is what government?
Federal.
The federal, yeah. Okay, so each agency, right, is part of the government. And agencies are filled with bureaucrats. And bureaucracies, right, they're the ones who fulfill rules, not necessarily laws, but rules of the bureau, of the agency. And agencies can create laws in a weird way because they create rules that are not necessarily made by Congress. And bureaucracy gets in the way of freedom. Okay, but so there's a difference between government jobs and private jobs, right? If you work at those, you're doing the business of government. That's government. Okay? Now, not all people who work in government are politicians, but all politicians work in the government. All right. So it's here in the book. Before beginning our exploration of American government, it's important to understand the difference between government and politics. Power and authority. Let's talk about that. What is power? What is the difference between power and authority?
I said authority is like limited.
Two?
Like rules.
To rules?
Mhm.
So, give me an example.
Like you.
We have authority of this classroom,
Yeah, I have authority over this classroom. I can do what? What is my authority?
to teach us.
Teach us.
You can control who get put out, you know.
I control the information I give. I control
You control the environment.
So it's-
the environment just to whatever degree. I guess I could turn the lights on or off. That's a joke. I probably can't even do that. No, I think I can. I gotta switch over there. I control the assignments, the wins, the hows. I do the grading, right? I dictate who gets to speak at what time. Okay, that's my authority. I go back to my office. I shut the door. I think that's about where my authority ends, right? I leave this campus. I start having a conversation with you guys in here. I can cut you off. I think you're talking too long. I can change the subject. I can interrupt you. I can tell you when you're wrong. I expect some form of decorum, that is respect and niceties amongst each other, right? I go to a coffee shop and then I start having the same conversation. The guy starts turning rude and I say, look, you gotta listen to me. I'm a professor. He goes, I don't have to listen to you.
That's power.
You have no authority, right?
Mhm.
I don't have the authority. Now even here, do I have power to enforce my will?
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, I do a lot of jujitsu and stuff, so I think I could take you. No, I'm joking. So look at the small person. That's not what we mean by power, right? Like I have the power of the grade book, right? I grade the assignments and within, the rules of the game, I use that power to get administer grades. You guys start getting uppity, start fighting each other. I go, well, all right, you got to get out of class for the day, come back when you cool down, right? That's my power, right? I can do some administrative things, for the, what I mean? And I have the power to change, like I think you did a great job. You worked really hard. You really deserved an A and you got a 89.5. I have that power and I have the authority to do it. I have the authority, the legitimacy to do it, right? I'm in that position, but I also have the power to do it. I'm the one doing it, right?
Yeah, you can actually.
Okay, so, I don't have the power to enter anybody else's grades outside this classroom. Nobody has the power to enter my grades for you. Nor do they have the authority. They have authority limited to their realm, okay? Now there are people higher up than I who may have some authority over me, right? And their authority is in a way limited, right? And they have certain powers that they can do. Changing grades, by the way, is let's say the dean or, could he change your grade?
Yes.
Probably not.
No.
No, well, he doesn't, on what grounds? He doesn't necessarily have the same skill set as I do, so he wouldn't, how could he grade what?
Nor does he teach us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he'd be like, I don't even know, what grade, how do I know what grade you
But
should
he can
get?
help
But
you
he's
get the
still-
grade, he can help you get the grade change, right?
How would he do that? I mean, it's very difficult. Don't worry, I'm not this in a threat, I'm gonna get you, No, most of my students are fine with that, that's not the point. Now, in government, we're talking about power and authority, right? So there are different realms of authority in government. And then within that realm of authority, they have certain powers. Okay? You have the power of the presidency. He has certain authority to do certain things. Does the president have the authority to declare war?
No.
No. Does he have the power to wage war? Well, very limited. Okay, he is the commander-in-chief, right, of the military.
Mhm.
But we talked about the power of the purse the other day, if you watched the video, right? So it's very hard to wage war without money. So money is power, as they say. So very difficult. So Congress has a lot of the power there. What you thinking?
Me?
Yeah,
No, just trying to take it in.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between power and authority, This job's not a very powerful position in the broad scheme of things. So I've got my little realm here, and then once I leave, it's like the guy, tearing the tickets at the movie theater. He's got his little realm of authority. You don't have your ticket, you're not getting in. Right? He may not have the power to keep you out. He may have to call security, right? but, you know, he's at least got the authority to say no. You got me?
Yeah.
Okay. What you think there?
Nothing.
Football's an interesting, analogy, right? You got a coach, especially, coaches have the authority to take players out of the game. Player can give the coach a hard time, right?
Yeah.
Coach say, you're out of the game. I don't care how popular you are. And so he takes the coach, and player messes up, then he could get fined. Players get fined in the NFL, some of them by tens of thousands of dollars. They do the wrong thing, right? The refs have certain authority to say this, that, and the other, and if you mess with it, they have the power, take you out, okay? All right. This is what it says. Listen to this here. Government refers to the official rules and institutions, the institutions we usually call bureaucracies, that structure the development and implementation of public policy. Politics, on the other hand, refers to the various ways individuals and groups seek to influence the final outcome of policy disputes. So there are things called like political action committees, right? What are those called? PACs, super PACs, right? These are groups. And let's say you're the tobacco lobby, right? Tobacco is a very big business, is it not? So you get a bunch of people hooked on your product, you're selling it, then you got a bunch of people who are like, we want to put tobacco out of business, right? We're going to make it illegal. And then these guys are like, ooh, crap, if we tobacco goes out of business, then we're out of business. We're losing a lot of money. We need to get somebody elected so that they will do what? Keep that from happening, correct? So what you do is you go around, you try to get certain people elected in, say, North Carolina, where a lot of the tobacco is grown, right? And you say, we need this guy, these guys we need these guys elected or you're gonna lose your job. Okay, so you go out and vote for this person because you want to feed your family, right? So, you got competing groups, okay, politically, all right. A governmental entity is said to have the authority if there is a legal foundation for a particular action, just like we said. Legitimacy means that most citizens believe an action is taken properly, right? Thus, authority is based on institutional elements, but legitimacy is based on perceptions. Here's a good one. So one of the things, this is going to be coming up in this new election, the legitimacy of our government. The Democrats early on in Trump's reign were saying that he was not a legitimate president because, why? Because Russia got him elected, right? They stole the election. Is that true? No, it's not true. They did a 2-year investigation, and the guys who investigated him hated Trump, so we know that they weren't looking out for Trump's best interest. They come back and said, nah, we didn't find anything. Spent a lot of money, couldn't find anything. This next one, now they're saying he's trying to steal the election again with the mail-in stuff. And then the Republicans are going, no, it's the Democrats. They're trying to steal the election. And so there have been a bunch of articles out lately that, what's going to happen is we're not going to know the results of the election on election night like we normally would because of all the mail-in ballots and all this stuff and all the fraud. And then we're going to have all these court cases, the battles, they're not going to know. And then come the day he's supposed to be inaugurated, whomever that may be, they're still not going to know. And guess who gets to be president? Nancy Pelosi. Why does Nancy Pelosi get to be president?
She's Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House is number 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if the number 1 and the number 2 are not in, they got to go to number 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, as Trump would say, crazy Nancy's in now, right? And so, was that a legitimate government? Well, it depends, because now we're like going, whomever's will the real president please stand up, right? They both stand up. You're like, wait a minute. One of you's not. Yes. 2007 I was teaching high school, and I said, do not be surprised if we are in a different form of government in your lifetime in the next 20 years. It's less than 20 years from now, and we're already fighting over whether or not America's gonna be a socialistic nation. And you guys may be the generation that sees America go from being the USA to the USSA, the United Socialist States of America.
Ooh.
It's a real deal. Now the question is, you know, legitimacy. Because that's what the fight's over right now. All right. Do you have the legitimate authority? In fact, this whole guy, here's a good example of this. There was a guy in LA, he had a talk show on the radio, and people would call in, and he did fake voices, okay? And he'd act like he had all sorts of different characters, and he was always, you know, he screwed with people, and he'd call them up, and he'd tell them, hey, this is the Neighborhood Watch program, and we've noticed that you've been walking your dog on the sidewalk, and we're gonna have to ask you to stop. And I'm just making this up, okay? It would have been something like that. They're like, no, it's legal to walk the dog. He says, no, I'm sorry, you can't walk the dog. I'm the head of the Neighborhood Patrol Agency, and we've got blue helmets. And they're like, well, that doesn't mean anything. It's like, oh yes, it does. We're official, we have blue helmets, you know? And he's joking, of course. He's just trying to get people to be all mad. And it's just kind of a joke radio show. And so, did that guy have legitimacy? No, nor did he have power. But, you know, so that's just kind of an example there. All right, we talked about the different types of governments. Can you guys tell me what different types of governments we had?
Monarchy, and then that's the unjust one. Right?
Monarchy
No, that's
is the just.
The
Mhm.
one, the one.
Yeah, and then we had the
The
Tyranny.
tyrant or tyrant.
tyrant, the unjust rule of the one. Then we had the
Aristocracy.
aristocracy,
That's just.
just rule of the many, few.
And then
Oligarchy.
Oligarchy, unjust rule of the,
Polity.
right? Just rule of the many.
Oh, yeah.
And then democracy. And this is all according to Aristotle, okay? Now,
Mhm.
according to this book, he has less, okay? But Aristotle had more. Okay? All right. Did you guys read, I suggested that you read the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah,
You did.
I did.
Okay, tell me, what did you get out of the Declaration of Independence?
Let me remember. That was like last week, right?
Yeah, that was so long ago, I know, last week.
I know.
In our world,
So much has happened. I'm trying to remember. So, cause you told us to read the Declaration of Independence and the Mayflower Compact and
I wanted-
kinda
yeah, I wanted
See.
both. I'm gonna create like a little assignment. So anybody watching this should know this, and I'll put up a folder. In fact, let me just describe this assignment now, so when you guys are wondering about it, it's just gonna be kind of bullet point, what you learned, kind of the who, what, where, when, why, how.
Mhm.
See the five, the who, what, where, when, why, how, we'll remind our gentleman when he gets back in. You know, what did you learn? Bullet point it.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be an essay, just let me know what you learned. It's kind of keeping you honest about the reading. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that with most, if not all of our readings, okay?
Mhm.
So I'll try to put that up tomorrow, by tomorrow. Okay, who, what, where, when, why, how, about the Mayflower Compact and the Declaration of Independence. So let's hear what you learned about the Declaration of Independence.
That you can, that the people have the right to like push out whoever's in charge or change like the rules if they don't like how it is.
Rules.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is a governing system
Or
here?
you could change the government,
Why?
because we have the right
To
to
go.
pick,
We have the right to pick what?
like who gets to run.
Does it say that?
No,
Can you pull it up? Do you have the, you should have it.
somewhere.
Now, there were certain things that, you know, the colonists were very upset about to begin with, okay?
Mhm.
And they saw these as violations of their rights and usurpations, he calls them. my biggest concern is with the opening statements of, my biggest, not concern, interest, I should say, is with the opening statements of the Declaration of Independence, because it's very philosophical, and that's the principles upon which we have created our government, okay? Not where Thomas Jefferson is stating how King George violated these. Those were the specifics. The general principles, what are the general principles of the Declaration of Independence? Three what?
Wait, hold on. It's on the three rules: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness.
Those aren't rules, those are rights.
Yeah, the rights.
Okay? What are rights? That's the question. Because without those rights, there's no justification for government. If you have no rights according to the document, there's no need for government. Right? Because why does he say we have government at all? That governments are instituted among men to do what? What?
Secure the rights.
You said
Secure the
protect, but secure rights, which, okay, I'd suggest that those are almost synonymous, okay? So governments are created amongst men to secure these rights. What rights? The rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From where do these rights come?
God.
From God. They're endowments by God. We talked about this already 2 weeks ago, that if there's no God, then there's no endowment. If there's no endowment, there's no endowment with rights. If there's no endowment with rights, then there's no need for government. Now, governments may be useful to put people in order and oppress them, and the powerful can rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if there are rights, then governments are needed to protect rights. And thus, if governments are not protecting rights, then it is the citizen's right to alter or abolish the government, which is a justification for revolution. Revolution means what? What does revolution mean? There are two types of revolution: bloody and bloodless, violent and non-violent. Okay? Change. That's it. Revolution just means change. Revolution's most often put in the context of government. So you have a change in government. Not necessarily a form, but it could be, an application. It could be the whole government gets changed, okay? We went from British rule to American rule. That's a pretty major revolution, all right? And there's a lot of different revolutions out there. In fact, the history of the world is a history of what? Change. And it's usually brought about either bloody or bloodless, right? By bloody or bloodless means. Was the American Revolution bloody or bloodless? It was clearly bloody, yeah. It's over the power of, who's going to rule the Americas. Now, there'll be a lot more to be said about that in short order. But right now, we're just talking about the contents of the Declaration of Independence. And I gave an assignment, so watch the video up to that point, okay? Tell me, did you read the Declaration of Independence as I said? No. Have you ever read the Declaration of Independence?
No.
What are your thoughts on it?
It was needed.
It was what?
It was needed.
Okay, Declaration of Independence was needed, okay. Okay, tell me about the contents of it. We hold these truths, self-evident, all men are created equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
That all men are endowed, right, by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. This is the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, right? Governments are instituted amongst men to secure these rights, right? Talks about that if governments fail to secure these rights, then what? We alter or abolish, okay. So right now, you know, in American context of our American election, context of American political policy, or action right now, a lot of people are talking about altering or abolishing our Constitution. Like Antifa, Black Lives Matter, those two want to alter and abolish our Constitution. So many go so far as to say abolish it, okay? Should we do that? You don't think so? Do you think so? You like our Constitution?
I mean, I like it, I mean, to a certain extent.
Okay, what's that you don't like it?
I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement, I mean, I don't really necessarily think it's to abolish the Declaration of Independence. I mean, just to make awareness. I mean,
Well, they're not, okay, so you got two types of the movement, what we call, you know, what you call Black Lives Matter, a lot of people. There's the official Black Lives Matter group that are Marxists. You know what Marxists are?
No, sir.
They're communists, okay? So if you go to their website, okay, and I'd invite you to do so, start reading up about them from their words, not from my words. What you find out is they are Marxists. What's a Marxist? Communist, yeah. Well, they believe that the history of the world has been the history of rich versus poor, the haves versus the have-nots, the powerful versus the powerless, right? And that there's the goal for an egalitarian society where we all have the equal outcomes, that we all are, living equally, right? Everybody has what everybody else has. Nobody has more, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has something. We've eliminated all poverty and all inequity, right? The way you do that is you have to have a revolution. You have to take from the haves. The have-nots have to rise up and take, take from the haves, and then they have to redistribute what the haves had amongst the have-nots, and now everybody's equal, okay? Now, I mean, there have been several revolutions, communist revolutions throughout the history of Earth and the world, and so the question is, has that really happened? Did it happen in Russia, the Soviet Union? Did it happen in communist China? Did it happen in Cuba, Venezuela, after all these revolutions? And will it happen in America successfully? So, but that's kind of the goal. And it follows a guy named Karl Marx, and Friedrich Engels. And they wrote a pamphlet called Communist Manifesto. And the Communist Manifesto discusses this. In fact, I think that's something I should put up for you guys to peruse. It's very interesting reading. That one pamphlet, that 30-page paper, has cost the lives of probably 200 million people on Earth thus far through these revolutions and purges and the like. So in these governments, it's kind of weird because Antifa is a Marxist group. And Antifa, a lot of them are calling them anarchists, but what's an anarchist? An anarchist wants no government. But a lot of these guys are Marxists, but Marxists don't want no government because you need government to do what? Redistribute wealth, right? You have to have the government take away from the haves and make sure nobody keeps hoarding, right? Because if there's no government, then you're definitely going to have haves and have-nots, right? You have no government to enforce that. Okay. But then there's the other type of Black Lives Matter. There's the people who go, no, what we really mean is that there's some injustice, social injustice, that the police, not all police, but many police are racist. There's this thing called systematic racism, and we believe that the system is rigged against black people, okay? And that may be true or untrue, but that's not Marxism. What they would like is a change in policing, to a point where it doesn't result in people getting shot. How's that? Does that work?
Yeah.
I think that's generally fair. And there's a belief that black men get shot more often than other people get shot, okay? Whether that's true or not, I'm not a statistician, I haven't looked at the numbers, okay? But that's at least the claim. So one is actually a political movement trying to overthrow the current constitution, okay? And then there are people, and that's the official group, by the way, that's the official group. Then there are people who go, no, yeah, I believe Black Lives Matter. But they're not looking into the politics of it, they're just going, yeah, it makes sense to me, right?
So I still stand with my answer because even if like the first Black Lives Matter, you say, I feel like the have and have nots, people are hard for what they got. So I feel
Say
like,
that one more time, my hearing with the
I
mask.
said my answer still stands. Like with the first Black Lives movement you gave me, I feel like people work hard for what they got, so I feel like they should have it. You shouldn't distribute nothing. If I work for my stuff, I want my own stuff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I get that. That's so, you know, I don't know if we talked about the different types of economies last time that governments have. Ours is a mixed economy. And in a mixed economy, that means there's, you know, the government's in control of some things and the private sector's in the control of some things. And when you put the private sector out there, people can make a lot of money in the private sector. A lot more money than you can make in the government, okay? Jeff Bezos making billions of dollars off this pandemic. Billions. I talked about that last time. Should he not be able to have that? Now, I'd be saying if somebody's making $1 billion and they're in government, then they shouldn't be making it, because that's my taxpayers. That's my money, okay? But I don't have to buy what Jeff Bezos is selling. Okay, I don't have to use Amazon. I choose to use Amazon, right? So there's a difference. But when you say you can't make money by the fruit of your labor or your ingenuity, right? Well, then I'll take a problem with that too. So it sounds like you have the same issue, right? Yeah. I mean, a lot of people can complain about how much athletes make, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Man, these guys deserve it, man. They're destroying their body for the cause. Heck, I do it for free, you know? Anyway, so, kind of got off topic here. We're talking about the Declaration of Independence, altering and abolish. And I said some groups want to abolish her. And it's true, some do, okay? And you go read there have been federal buildings under assault for months in Oregon, right? You've seen that on TV? You haven't seen it on TV? You gotta watch some TV.
I don't watch TV.
Oh man, it's exciting right now. You know anything about Antifa? You don't have no idea. That's cool. How about you?
Nope.
You know what's going on? Are you serious?
I don't watch TV either.
Well, that's good. It rots your brain. But you watch your phone.
I don't really be on my phone like that,
YouTube?
to be honest.
You never watch YouTube?
Nope,
You never watch? Are you?
YouTube?
Unless I'm trying to learn something.
Instagram.
I be on Instagram, but I don't.
Yeah. That's how. Yeah, those are photos, right? No, it's not photos. I'm wrong.
I don't usually be on there.
What do you use? Do you use anything?
My phone.
So on your phone, should I expect that you just have one of those phones that just like does phone calling and that's it?
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't. You got an iPhone.
I mean, I have an iPhone, but I don't use it to do anything. I mean,
You go search the internet?
not really. I'm not too big on it.
Wow, I'm glad. That's good. Now, ignorance is bliss, but sometimes it's not so blissful. Type in Portland. Get on YouTube. Look up some of the Portland riots that have been going on for the last 100 days. There are riots in Portland, New York, Chicago. Where's the other one? Where was the last riot you went to? Oh yeah. These are people who really are like they're trying to burn down the federal building with federal agents in there and shooting off fireworks at them. And so, by the way, for the camera's purpose here, you know, if you're not aware of this, go look it up online. Go to go to YouTube. You can find protests and you can watch counter protests, and it's a bunch of these guys. They're Antifa. What is Antifa? Antifa. They're short for anti-fascist, which is ironic because they're using fascist tactics and saying they're anti-fascist, but they're really not. They're actually being quite fascist. But watch it, and you realize whole portions of certain cities are being burned down, looted, and destroyed by these groups, by these rioters. And then these rioters, these are the backers of these rioters are communists. That's what I'm saying. That's been pretty well established. If somebody gets upset about that, it's only either they don't know what they're talking about, or they're upset that it's been found out. But there's no hiding that. These people are socialists. So all right. So yeah, I mean, if the government is so bad, if we're looking at the Declaration of Independence, if the government is so bad, we should abolish it, right, and get a new one, right? And so, are there any things about America you'd like to change federally? Is America that bad a place?
No.
No.
You say no, and you say no, and what do you say?
I don't think.
You kind of like it here?
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Better than a lot of other places.
Well, thank God if you don't pay attention to the news, it seems like a pretty nice place. If you watch the news, man, you'd think this place was horrible.
Horrible.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm in a way, I'm kind of glad you don't watch the news. The news is kind of like a soap opera. Oh, it's horrible. Yeah.
You
It's
gotta look at
horrible.
one side of the hand class.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yes, it is. So I used to work for the news, ABC to be precise, and I was an editor. And I can tell you, yes, it's very, very manipulative. Okay. I can tell you tricks of the trade and all that. But the point I want to make with this is that the news is not about the truth. Did you catch that? The news is not about telling you the truth. The news is about ratings just as much as any other show is about ratings. Because the news has to stay on the air. It's a show like any other show. The station has a newscast because it can make money. So they have to stay on the air. And how do they stay on the air? They sell advertising space. Commercials. So commercials, if you want to advertise Tide soap or gold, you know how they sell gold, today's investment, buy gold, that stuff, or insurance or whatever, right? Well, people have to watch because you're not going to spend your hard-earned money advertising your carpet company, cleaning company, if you know nobody's watching. So you go to the station where more people are watching. How do you know who's watching? The ratings. So the news has to jack up their ratings so that they can jack up their prices to sell airtime to the companies who want to advertise with them. How do you get your ratings up? You get more people to watch you. How do you get more people to watch you?
Promotion.
What's that?
Promotion.
You got to promote your own station, of course, that you'll advertise your own station's news. So why should I watch your news over the other news?
Cause my news probably got some better news.
We got better news. What does it mean to have better news?
More interesting.
More interesting topics.
More interesting topics, more important topics,
More
and
drama.
more drama. They're hard-hitting news,
Something
you know.
that you can keep talking about it. You can
Oh
keep
God,
talking
yeah.
about it.
Think about that tornado that just hit. Now it did hit Louisiana, but let me tell you something. You would have thought it was gonna come up the Gulf and hit all the way into Oregon. It was so tough, right? And I mean, people were like, we gotta watch this, and everybody's like watching. My wife was so worried. We're gonna board up the windows? I don't know. I don't see anybody else boarding up the windows. We're pulling in. We pulled in all our lawn chair because we were afraid our tables were gonna be thrown across to the neighbor's house and go through their
We tied down our
window.
trampoline.
You got rid of a trampoline.
We tied it down.
Yeah, right, yeah. Because the news told you, and then all of a sudden, yesterday I think was a stronger storm that hit us.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is more like what we would. I'm not saying they, maybe they just got it wrong.
I think people are traumatized from Harvey.
I know, but maybe they overplayed their hand a bit.
For sure.
And maybe there was a bit of ratings, you know, that might have the need to get people to watch, might have played just a little role in this.
Yeah.
If you watch the news, you would think we need to change our government now. We need to do something. You listen to Biden, oh my God, we got to get rid of this administration. We got to, but we need to. I mean, some of these people, like, we got to get rid of our Constitution. We got to tear it down. Type in tear it down. Burn it down. Type in burn it down.
Oh.
Just type it, man. See what we get. I can almost guarantee, you know. What'd you find? Have you found anything on your searching? You better be searching for stuff on the class. Better be really interested because, you know, what'd you find? Did you find anything?
Well, I just found the Antifa group.
Yeah, what did it say?
Like their recent Portland
Yeah.
major places, Antifa supporter runoffs, and like people just like news, Fox channels.
Oh, that's a movement.
What is?
Burn it down?
Yeah. What do they want to burn down?
The police department.
Police.
The police department. They want to get rid of the whole police. Oh my. Okay, what else what do you find? What does Antifa want to get rid of? Yeah, guys, we could ask the question, are they right? What if they're right? What if we need to get rid of our system and get a new one? How are we judging our government, by the way? How do we judge our government? This is and I think we're going to be coming to an end here in a few minutes. So we need to ask, this is where it really gets important. On what grounds do we judge whether a government is good or bad?
What they can do for us.
What they can do for the people.
That's how most
What they
people
can do for the people.
What they do for the people.
According to the Declaration of Independence, how do we judge?
By the unalienable rights.
Yeah, how well governments secure rights. And if they fail to secure rights, you need to do what? Alter? No, you don't just throw it out. I mean, you can if it's that bad, right? You don't always throw out the whole thing, right? It's like kill the patient because he's got a headache, right? Well, I cure that thing, we just cut the head off, right? No, you either alter or abolish, right?
Yeah.
And I asked you, is America that bad? Well, what do we mean by bad? Is it violate, so this is, now you gotta write this down, natural law. The Declaration of Independence is grounded on the philosophical position of natural law. The Declaration of Independence is grounded on the philosophical position of natural law. That is, that there is a law that comes before the written law. There's the natural law before the written law. So if you read a physics book and it talks about gravity, and it says you let go of an object, you hold it in midair and you let it go, it falls to the earth. Did that object fall to the earth because it was written, or did they write it down because it fell to the earth?
They write it down because it feels good.
Right, so there's nature, right? There are laws of nature. And we discover these laws of nature and we write them down. That's called positing them. So let's take the right to life, and let's take the laws that forbid murder. Murder is the intentional, unjustified killing of a human. Make sense? The intentional, unjustified killing of a human. Do you have a right to life because murder is against the law? Or is murder against the law because you have a right to life?
Murder is against the law because you have a right to.
That's correct. That's right. So they wrote it down and we punish it because that's a violation of your right. But that right didn't come because they wrote it down. They wrote it down because you have it. Just like writing about the marble dropping to earth, we call that the effects of gravity. It didn't fall because we wrote it. We wrote it because it fell. All right? They existed before we wrote them down. Gravity existed before Newton. Newton just wrote. Okay? So we decide murder is a violation of your rights, and thus we will put you in jail if you do such a thing. The intentional, unjustified killing of a human. Natural law says you have, by nature, and nature's God, God created you this way, that he has endowed you with certain unalienable rights, such as the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And thus, you cannot take away rights. You can violate rights. Make sense? One can violate the right, but one cannot take away your rights. The governments can violate them. That's why governments need to be altered so that they do not violate rights. And how do we judge governments? By the natural law. Are they violating these natural rights? Are they failing to secure natural rights? So, for example, let's say, here's a great example right now. There are a bunch of groups springing up. If you get to know what's happening with these, they call them protesters, but we're talking about rioters burning down buildings and stuff. So this one group, they say, screw it, we're not going to take it anymore. We're going to go out, we're going to take our guns with us. We're going to hang out at this car lot, at my buddy's car lot. And we're going to wait for these guys to come burn it down. We're going to protect the car lot with our own guns. Why are we going to do it? Because the government, the police, the city police, are failing to secure the rights of the citizenry. So we're going to rise up and do this. What ended up happening? 17-year-old boys chased down the street. He's got an AR-15. All of a sudden they're hitting him. One guy has a gun. He ends up shooting 3 people with this gun, his AR-15. I think 1 died or 2. I don't know how many died.
I think
2 people died, right? He gets arrested, interestingly enough. The question is, did he have a right to defend himself? His defense says yes, because they were chasing him. They were trying to take his gun, okay, the gun he held, okay? So when they're trying to take it from him, he wasn't shooting at anybody up until that point. They're hitting him, chasing him, throwing things at him, and you catch it all on video, and then also pop, 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 right? Start shooting, 3 people get shot, somebody dies, at least 2, you say, okay? But what happens when governments fail to secure your rights? Well, then you've got to secure your own rights, don't you? The government's not doing that. Let's just pretend the government all these governments just say, forget it, we're getting rid of the police.
Oh.
How are your rights going to be protected?
They're not.
Right, they are not. I mean, that would be scary, wouldn't it? For all of us. Think about it. Think about it. You're the biggest, toughest guy on the block. And you're a mean guy, too. And you're going to go, now there's no police. And you're like, well, I can take what I want. Well, you should be scared. Because that means other people are going to rise up and try to kill you, and there's not going to be any consequences to them either. There's no consequence. So yeah, I mean, we're in a really interesting, we got a lot of interesting conversations going on the news. Even if it's only for ratings, there are real people who do want to abolish our police. Type in abolish the police. What politicians want to abolish the police right now? Somebody type that one in. I mean, what actual governmental agencies are the ones tasked with securing your rights, if not the police? Because Congress can make all the rules it wants, right? All the laws. But it can't enforce laws without police. So if there are no police, then there are no laws. Because laws are only as good as enforcement. What'd you get?
It just brought up Antifa and something about Biden.
Yeah. It says no one wants to abolish the police. They just said they want major changes.
Yeah.
Nobody does. Whoa.
It says most cops are good, but
Most cops.
but progressives.
What side? What side are you at?
The New York Times is the top one,
Yeah, you go for another one.
and then the next one is the Antifa, and that's on Fox News.
Do they have their own website?
Antifa?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look up Sandy
Michigan Representative Rashida
Tlaib.
Tlaib, that's who wants to buy.
Rashida Tlaib, yeah. Okay. How about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
You said who?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Rashida Tlaib. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She grew up with the name Sandy. Changed it for political reasons. There's another one, Ilhan Omar. Did you get anything?
Nope.
Type in AOC, abolish the police. Or defund the police.
You said AOC?
Yeah, AOC. She goes by AOC. For short. Now, I'm using this only to make a point about government securing rights. How do we determine whether or not we have a government that is worth keeping or not? The answer to that is we judge it by the natural law. We judge it by the natural law. That is, does the government secure the natural rights of mankind? Okay? And that's according to the document. Is that true? Did Thomas Jefferson have it correct that all men are created equal? Some men are created more equal?
I mean, everybody created equal. but-
All right, so then he is correct.
Yeah, he is correct.
You're like, no, and I'm like, are you sure? Okay, no, okay, let's go back. All right. So we all have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
Okay, so you agree with him on that?
Yes.
You do. Does anybody disagree with that in this class? Okay. The reason I say in this class, because I know people disagree with him. Because people don't believe in God. And if you don't believe in God, you can't believe that you were created equally.
Yeah.
Right? You can't be created equal. Because you're not created. Okay? So, there you go. But that's not to say these same people are going, you shouldn't all have equal outcomes, which is weird, right? Okay. So what's the proper answer to that question? We're judged by the natural law, according to governments are judged by the natural law. Okay, to see to what degree they do what? Secure the rights of man. What are the rights of man? Well, they're natural rights. Name me some of the natural rights. Natural right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Got 4 minutes left, I think. Class ends at 4:45.
45.
Yeah, good. Got 3 minutes. What does liberty mean? What?
Freedom?
Freedom to do what? Is it merely freedom?
Freedom to live how you want to live.
How you want to live? Like if I want to like just sit on the couch, smoke crack, watch porn all day, child porn at that. Is that liberty?
That's not good.
That's not liberty. That's slavery. That's bondage.
Yeah, that's bondage.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay? That's not liberty. Liberty has to do with how you're designed. Keep in mind, this all has to do with natural law. And we'll talk more about this, okay, as the class periods go on. But natural law has to do with design, that you were designed. You know why you have a right to life? Because you were designed to live. Okay? Your eye was designed to do what? It's obvious.
You said what?
Your eyes.
To see.
To see. Your ears to
Here.
Here.
right. You're designed for life, but also for liberty. And liberty has to do with your design. You have a right, a design to fulfill your design. Okay? What are you designed for? Yeah, that's a deep question, isn't it?
Whatever
So
you wanna
you are at liberty to do what you're designed for. You are not at liberty to be vicious, that is full of vice, that is to go against the design. We'll talk more about that. You also have a right to pursue happiness. What is happiness? Virtue, the good life. And by good, I mean the moral life. So when I talk about, does one have a right to sit there and smoke crack while watching child porn? No, because those are vicious acts. Those are destructive towards what we call the ends of man, the design. What you're designed for, crack and porn, and child porn at that especially, is highly destructive to the design for what humans are made for. What were you made for? And those, I can tell you, those were not it. So do you have a right to liberty in that regard? No. You have a right to act in accordance with the design. Now, that's a much different reading of the Declaration of Independence, but it's based off of natural law. And that you can see what, if you read it with that in mind, you go, oh, that's a little different than what I thought. Okay, any questions? All right, with that, we turn it off.